Right. Welcome, everybody. Uh, Recording has already started. Please feel free to submit your questions in the chat if you have them. And yeah, welcome to today's webinar, the State of U.S. Nighttime Economy Management, Recent Wins and Emerging Trends. My name is Ben Van Houten. I'm the Director of Nightlife Initiatives at the City and County of San Francisco. Really excited to be hosting and facilitating this webinar as part of NITECAP, the Nighttime Economy Culture and Policy Alliance, a network of professionals responsible for nighttime economy advocacy, planning, and management in U.S. cities. We share experiences, policies, and practices, raise awareness about nighttime economy and culture, and highlight the value and importance of this role across governments. Today, we're going to be hearing from a number of panelists representing different cities across the United States to hear about their recent successes, emerging trends that they are seeing in nighttime economy work moving forward. Our five panelists today are Allison Harnden, Nighttime Economy Manager of the City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the President of NITECAP. Rachel Bain, the Hospitality and Nightlife Planner for the City of Raleigh, North Carolina. Benton McDonough, the Director of the Mayor's Office of Nightlife in Nashville, Tennessee. Julia Heath, the Policy and Outreach Manager in the Mayor's Office of Nighttime Economy in New Orleans. And Mathieu, Grondin, the Nightlife Commissioner of the City of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I think we're going to start with you, Allison. As the president of NITECAP, you recently did some reflecting on how young nighttime economy work is as a profession. Can you briefly share some of those thoughts and where are we in the evolution of this field?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I started thinking about, that 15 years, less than 15 years ago, there was not even a nighttime economy manager in any city. And started thinking about, look at urban planners and how they fit into our city government, how long they've been around, and how they have grown within our city structures, our municipal structures. And, thinking that we are still finding our way and defining this role as we're working in it. And I think there are a lot of cities right now that are faced with budget shortfalls or new administrations take over, there are shifting priorities. And so there's been some unrest there have been offices of nighttime economy eliminated. So I'm just thinking a lot about there's a need for cities to really embrace how to sustain and strengthen this role within within the government. And also, several of us attended the World Economic Forum and looking at just how nighttime economy is more than just, bars and restaurants and nightclubs, but that it really is about a sustainable city and how that may look in the future. So I think, we're really in a nascent role, and we need the help of all of our partners inside city government, outside of city government, to help us figure this out, how to make these jobs sustainable and how we can all work together to, move our cities forward to a different type of future.
I know one of the things that you've been thinking about is the importance of data in
Mm.
advocacy in this space and sort of building that case. Um, could you share a little bit about your thoughts on how data collection, data reporting connects to success and the sustainability of this field?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of our partner cities have had the ability to do some economic impact reports, and those are like very important to telling the story of the value of nighttime economy. But we also need to know about how healthy our nighttime economies are and how there are shifting priorities and how they're changing from year to year. So kind of trying to find commonalities across of data points that might be able to compare cities as well as, just your own city from year to year. We recently in Pittsburgh we commissioned a Carnegie Mellon Heinz College of Public Policy capstone project and had a team of 5 students that were looking at kind of a needs assessment and including data, how to tell, our story with data. And in addition to, identifying some good data sources, they also identified some of the shortfalls of those of those data sources, and making kind of a recommendation that we need to look at how those need to be updated. So like NAICS codes are very problematic for nighttime economy, and not really pinpointing some of the strengths of certain aspects of nighttime economy. And we are working within NITECAP, have some projects with the University of Austin, and just got notice like 10 minutes ago that NITECAP's proposal for another capstone, but with NITECAP, was accepted. So we have some good partners also, with Michael Fitchman and other Andrena, a lot of other sources of researchers that are really helping to expand this field and help tell the advocacy story and the worth, and not just dollars and cents, but the cultural value and the quality of life value that it brings to the city.
Super interesting. Thank you, Allison. And
Sure.
I've been told I should speak up a little bit, so happy to do that moving forward. We're going to move on, but we're going to hear from Allison more later. I think we're going to bring up Rachel next. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Ben. How are you?
Good. Okay. This year, Raleigh made major strides in addressing sound management. And recently, with your office's support, the City Council approved a new amplified noise ordinance that I understand takes effect in just a few weeks, beginning of the year. Could you share a little bit of context around why these reforms were needed and how you approach developing them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure that determining the balance between nightlife, residents, amplified sound, quality of life is not a unique challenge to just Raleigh. I would bet that most of our nightlife managers on this call have experienced some form of that. However, I will say we have a lot of peak city council interest, so that might make us a little unique. This has been forefront for our city council. It is something they've had interest in to find a workable solution between these two opposing entities. And even within the last 5 years of me being in this role, we've changed a couple times. So we are working out the kinks and moving for a new ordinance for amplified sound at commercial establishments on January 1st. So because of we are moving from a reasonable person standard to a decibel standard, which we've had before, but this one will be more robust. And it was just the perfect opportunity to have this reform when there were multiple parties that are typically opposing, and they all felt a sense of ambiguity. And so we took that opportunity, and council saw this as a chance to make some changes and highlight amplified sound at commercial establishments.
Thanks, Rachel. This sounds like a significant change, and I'm curious how you plan to approach implementing this and setting business expectations appropriately, and then from there, what outcomes are you looking for?
Yeah, definitely. This has been, months in the works. So we worked with a consultant to come in, as Allison was talking about, and we all know data is really important to make any informed decision. So what is really going on out there, and what are the real concerns when you look at it with a microscope, but also zooming out. So the last few months, consultant working on a communications plan, working on a new system to take noise complaints and make it easier for residents to do, easier for our enforcement team to read and respond in real time, and not tie up our emergency call takers. So we've been working behind the scenes doing all of that. We've been talking with our business owners and our most vocal residents so they know exactly what's going on. We are very grateful to have such a good partnership with our police department here in Raleigh, and we are taking a new approach where they will still house the enforcement entity, but it will be non-sworn positions. So again, lots of background work. We're trying to prep our businesses and residents as much as possible. There'll be more education in the new year. The outcome that we're really hoping for is that when we go back to city council in 6 months, that we can provide the data that shows not everyone is where they've been the last year, that the businesses are still having business, they still are having their music, and our residents are sleeping a little bit better at night.
That's excellent. Okay, beyond sound management, what else is on the horizon for 2026?
Oh, well, it kind of goes hand in hand. We will be working on our relationship building when these new non-sworn employees start in the new year. We really want to make sure that they're a resource, just like our team is for nightlife businesses. So bridging that gap and making sure people know that the government is not all permits and violations, but we're really here to make this successful.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And again, we'll be including you in the group conversation a little bit. I want to turn it now to Benton McDonough. Bring Benton up. Hello, Benton. I think, sorry, Ben, could you speak again?
Oh, I said
wonderful.
good morning
There
to you.
go. Perfect. Got you there. Benton, this has been a significant year for Nashville. I could rattle off some of the
Very much so.
accomplishments. Yeah, addition of night inspectors, implementation of a free parking program, harm reduction initiative. I mean, among all these accomplishments, which of the wins feels most impactful or significant for your nighttime economy? And then I'm also curious, was one of them especially challenging to make happen?
Yeah, I appreciate the questions. I think it really depends on how you're looking at these successes. So if you're talking about an economic standpoint, I would say that the musician parking really is probably our biggest success there, because you're saving money for the musicians, and instead of them paying 50 or 60% of what they made in a night on parking, we got it 100% covered by Metropolis, the parking company here. And then if you're looking at those from a public safety perspective, then I would say Narcan is the big success there. We've found that 14 lives have been saved by the one box Narcan kits that we've distributed. We've put one in every sports venue that we have in the city, put one in every metro school that we have in the city. So that's 132 schools in our city that now have one boxes. So that's been huge as well. And then if you're looking at it from a government standpoint, I would say the night inspectors definitely help that, as well as the quality of life perspective as well. And we have other departments now that are looking at the work that we're doing through Nightlife with the night inspectors, and they want to be involved in that as well. And so we've had a few departments looking to potentially hire night employees, and then to pair them up with our department. So that's been a great success there. But as far as the most challenging, they all obviously have different challenges, but I would say overall Narcan has probably been one of the more challenging ones, just because there's still that stigma there that comes with overdoses and drug use and that sort of thing. So that's something that we've had our challenges with, but I think overall we've been very successful with it. And the fact that we've saved 14 lives through that, I think shows that we're making great progress.
That's really amazing. Rachel was talking a little bit about, it's, yes, sound enforcement, but also other aspects of a nighttime economy portfolio. I'm curious, you're talking about, it seems like there's been resources dedicated to compliance, but also supporting patrons, thinking about resources to support businesses and their workers. How do you see it all as part of the bigger kind of portfolio of nighttime economy work that your office is charged with?
Well, I think one of the responsibilities that we have in Nightlife is to address, issues of cleanliness, issues of quality of life issues, that sort of thing. And so I feel like each of these items fit in with with those those requirements that we have and those expectations that they had for this position. And so, I think we partner with the Sexual Assault Center on Safe Bar, for instance. And so we're going out and protecting the lives of patrons by providing them with drink covers and drink coasters that can test for GHB and things of that nature that might happen to be placed in their drinks. So we're out there trying to prevent that. We're also trying to help the employees and the staff in nightlife, such as creating our night school program and starting to provide mental health support to a lot of the people in those industries. So I feel like everything that we do, it fits into the nightlife portfolio, and everything builds upon everything else that we're doing. So.
Apologies about that, everybody. I am back. Um, Wonderful. Benton, just to close things out, I'm curious, the nighttime, the Responsible Hospitality Institute Social City Summit is coming up in Nashville in 2026. What can we look forward to at the summit?
Well, we're really excited about welcoming everyone to the city, to Music City, and we've talked with Jim Peters quite a bit about what makes a Music City, and that's in our name. But we also I think we're going to try to provide examples of why Nashville is a music city and why how it got that title. But also, we're going to look at other things like we can talk about the various genres that we have in Nashville that we're finding on a daily basis, and also looking at the fact that I think one thing Nashville does really well is that our cities, I'm sorry, our departments work really well together. I think every time I go to a conference and I meet someone new at one of the RHI conferences, they talk about the silo effect in their city. And I'm proud to say that Nashville does a really good job of beating that back some and really not having silos with our departments. We share a lot of data, a lot of information, and that sort of thing. So, and closing that out, I also think that it's important to show that Nashville has a lot of women in leadership roles, whether it's in hospitality in that area or the music business, that sort of thing. So we're going to have a lot of that to show at the conference coming up in April. So we're excited to have everyone here and to have our breakout sessions and discuss how we can make the industry better.
That's excellent. Thanks, Benton.
Thank you.
Next up, Julia.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Julia. Julia, New Orleans just released its first ever nighttime economy strategy. And there's a line in the plan that says, "A city without a plan for nightlife is a city without a plan for its future." Why was it important to develop a strategic vision to guide this work?
Yeah, I mean, I think a bunch of reasons. I'm coming up with new reasons all the time still, but one of the main reasons is kind of what Allison was saying in the beginning. A lot of our work, a lot of what we do in all of our cities is just really not understood. And whenever I talk to somebody that I'm meeting for the first time who doesn't, already understand that our office exists, they'll hear the term nighttime economy and be like, "What does that mean?" And, don't believe that it's a real concept or whatever. So for us, getting a strategic plan on paper was important just to help other people understand what it is that we do. And that's people who live in New Orleans, but also people who are in other city agencies, so other city departments and offices. Our office was created in 2022, but we really started getting momentum kind of in the last year or so. So we've been making up for lost time, kind of explaining what it is that we're about, who we talk to, why we exist. And, New Orleans, the people of New Orleans don't trust the government a lot for a lot of reasons, and I think that that's totally fair. So part of the reason that we wanted to get this done also was to kind of create a form of transparency and create, a way so that they could see why their tax dollars are funding our office. Um, and also find where they fit in. A lot of our strategic plan covers business support, but it's also about resident support, hospitality worker support, things like that. So what services does our office provide that they might not know about, but they could benefit from?
I'm curious about how you're thinking about evaluating outcomes. Like what does success look like against the backdrop of this strategy?
Yeah, so we did our strategy totally in-house. It was my main project this year, so we didn't work with a consultant. We really just kind of took it down to the basics. A lot of the items, the individual kind of goals in this strategy are pretty basic things that a functioning city should have under control in the first place. So I think that, we'll be able to measure success, excuse me, just, if our permitting system gets better, issuing more business licenses, having less confusion for businesses, fewer times that these people need to reach out to us in order to get their application completed to the end. We'll be able to track to see, our office doesn't do permitting in-house, but we work really closely with Safety and Permits that does. And just being able to see the average number of days that it takes to complete a permit for a new bar, for example, if that number goes down, then that's success to us.
That's excellent. I want to ask about the tune-up grant program
Mhm.
to support venues. Could you talk a little bit about the needs that program is trying to address, and also the unique workforce development element there?
Yeah, so the Tune Up Grant Program is what I am the most proud of since being in this office. The SparkNotes version, the Tune Up Grant Program is a partnership with Loyola University's Music Industry Studies program. And this is the first year that we've done it. We selected 9 venues to that need help with their sound management. This grant program started as a way to address neighborhood sound complaints, which are one of the biggest threats to our local businesses, and that includes music venues, bars, etc. So we saw that, since the pandemic, especially we've had a lot more neighborhood complaints about sound throughout the city. And so we wanted to find a way that we could help these venues kind of get their sound under control, to cut down on those complaints. A lot of it is, pretty simple stuff like just installing some curtains, installing double pane windows, keeping your doors and windows closed, stuff like that. But some of these things cost money, and also there's kind of an educational gap as well. So the awardees of the first round of our grant were connected with a new class that we created with Loyola University, which is a class of 4 students who are learning about sound management and acoustics and stuff like that. These students, under faculty supervision, go into these venues and they kind of assess the current environment, and make a list of personalized recommendations for what the venue can do better to not only decrease the amount of sound that's leaking outside of their venue, but also just increase the overall acoustic quality inside the venue. So, in addition to connecting them with this class and getting the recommendations, each venue is getting $5,000 to make those capital improvements. So, yeah, I mean, I believe San Antonio tried a grant program like this a few years ago, but it wasn't recognized as super successful. So we were kind of building this plane as we've been flying it. But Ben, you mentioned the workforce development component, and that is, my background is in independent venue support and operations and all that. So very thrilled to help the venues, but maybe a little bit more excited to have this new partnership with Loyola and with these students who are interested in working in the local music industry, and being able to kind of create a direct pipeline from campus to the venues that actually exist in the real world that's outside of, Loyola. Um, so yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Going to bring up now Mathieu to give us a Canadian perspective. I think we often talk probably too much just in a U.S. context about this work. I'm curious from your perspective. what are the most pressing issues that you're facing in Ottawa? And then a second question is maybe this isn't a fair two-part question, but I'm just curious about the sort of trends you see in Canadian cities in this work.
Thank you, Ben, for inviting me. I think there's a reason why Canada is a bit overlooked when it comes to discussing nightlife governments and in municipal governments, but it's because there's only one city in Canada that create a quote unquote night mayor position, and it's Ottawa. So it's a brand new position. I've been here for a little over a year and a half now. Ottawa is a mid-sized city that has a branding problem. I'll say it like that when it comes to nightlife and vibrancy after dark. And that's probably the case of a lot of Canadian cities too, outside of maybe Toronto and Montreal, sometimes Vancouver. Nightlife is not a huge thing, and people don't visit Canada because of its nightlife. Usually, when I travel in Europe and I say that I tell people what I do, people chuckle and are like, "Oh, Canada! I thought you only had forests and polar bears." So I think, and partly because of that, and because this position was created as part of the Nightlife Economy Action Plan that was adopted by Council unanimously, because that's the good thing, is that unanimously from all sides of the political spectrum here in Ottawa, people are unanimous in thinking that they need to develop and take care of their nightlife. But it took like a year and a half before the position was created. So there was a bit of a buildup, and I was speaking with Corinne Reynolds, the director of nightlife in Boston, a few weeks ago, and she went. She had the same treatment as I did, which is like there was a lot of public pressure and the expectations were really high, and there was a lot of confusion about what this position is really about. I think a lot of people expected that would be cutting ribbons and throwing parties and opening up new venues, which is not the case, as you all know. So I think fixing that narrative has been a bit of an issue in the first year. And, I think generally in Canada, post-COVID, our downtowns have not, maybe I think it might be a bit of the same case in the United States, but our downtowns have not recovered the same vibrancy. And we are facing, social issues. And that was a bit of a surprise to me when I took the position, that there was a perception that I would be taking care of, for instance, the house population downtown, and how was I going to fix this? And so this is really new. And another thing I hear a lot is, inflation. The Canadian dollar is very low, and the prices have been going up post-COVID, and for our main target audience would always be the youth, and if they have to make a choice between paying their rent and going out, well, they will be paying their rent. So a lot of them will tell me they can only afford to go out once a month. So developing new, free, affordable, accessible nightlife activities is a big part of what I think the mandate will be in the next few years here.
Thematically, is that connected to the work on, is it Metcalfe Plaza? Like the
Yeah.
idea, could you talk a little bit about that project in the context of, I think, exactly what you're talking about right now around creating new free experiences that activate public space?
Yeah, it's a placemaking project. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here, but it's kind of a new thing in Ottawa. We've been lagging behind in that regard, in that aspect. So, young cultural entrepreneurs came up to me earlier last year, and they were like, they'd seen this in Montreal and Toronto, and they wanted this. They had identified a gap here in Ottawa, and they wanted this. So, with the help of the planning department here, we identified a location that was just like an empty lot that was unused. And we reached out to a placemaking business that had this expertise that was from out of town. And we teamed up those cultural programmers with that business. We involve also the downtown BIA, with the funding from the BIA and from the city, we created this space, which ran as a pilot for 6 weeks. So it was 6 weekends, open on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday nights. On Saturday, there was also a yoga class at noon that, unexpectedly became really, really popular, but that's not nighttime, but whatever. I think it speaks to the wellness trend of the younger generation right now. But the place was packed. It was a huge success. It was a 500 capacity venue, and it was packed every night. So I think it just demonstrates the appetite for Ottawans for this type of and young people for this type of project, and it also provided an opportunity for certain artists that come from cultural communities, from the Black community, from the Latino community, the Middle Eastern community, to shine there, because they're often overlooked, and there's a bit of gatekeeping when it comes to institutions and especially governments. So it gave credibility to what they were doing. So this is supposed to come back next year and run for the full season from June till September, and we also were looking into expanding this into a year-long project, so also activating it as a winter bar. It runs from 6 p.m. to around 10 p.m., so it's not like it doesn't go very late. And of course, we've had to manage a little bit of noise complaints there, but I'm sure we'll be able to address this in the future. So
That's great. Thank you. I think final question before I want to open it up to the group. I know you've launched resources to connect patrons and businesses to Ottawa's nighttime economy. You launched an ambassador program to promote safety and visitor experience. I'm curious about this idea of, and you've talked about it a little bit, but engaging with residents and visitors to help them understand nightlife, to help them see the value of nightlife as part of the work. Could you just flesh that out just a little bit more?
Well, explaining the value of nightlife in terms of quality of life and vibrancy, and also the attractiveness of your city, that's something I do more toward, like, through a lot of public speaking engagement and interviews. And but the website Ottawa at Night, it came out of a pressure because we have a lot of people here. Ottawa is kind of like an amalgamation of suburbs, and people who don't go out all the time don't know where to go when they finally want to go out. So there was this expectation that this position was should be helping marketing and amplifying whatever's going on in the city. So there was a lot of pressure to create an event listing, but that's a lot of work to curate. First of all, you're a city, so how can you curate? You need to put the line somewhere, so that didn't feel comfortable with that. So instead, we opted for a directory of nightlife businesses that offer cultural programming at night. So we listed over 100 venues all across the city. So there's a map, you can find them. And there's also that's a public facing part for residents and visitors and participants. And there's one that's more business facing, where you can find all the information if you're a business owner or you want to kickstart a new project in terms of licensing, permitting, safety tips, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that's very interesting about this, and now I'm pretty proud of it, is that we managed to have our own branding, and it's an out of city website. So it doesn't have the sometimes beige branding that cities, the corporate websites have from cities. So that was a nice thing, and it's part of trying to address this branding issue of the city. So that was a big argument I had to, I leverage, which is like, we have a branding issue. Can we have a website that's cool? So yeah, that's what we did. And when it comes to the Nightlife Ambassador program, this is, more about engaging with participants that go out. Again, there was a lot of perception that this team was going to take care of the haunted house population and the social issues, but it's really more for people who go out. So, if you're a young person, you've drank too much, we can put you in a cab, recharge your phone so you can find your friends, that type of things. And this was also a very well appreciated also by the businesses, because sometimes they are dealing with cases of over intoxication, for instance, and they need to kick out the patron. So instead of just kicking them out in the public space, and then it becomes the problem of the police and the paramedics, they can reach out to this team, and they're usually young people who have some sort of training in social work, and they can take care of those cases and make sure to get home safe. And also, big part of their job has been de-escalating tensions sometimes. So when people want to fight, they manage to turn it down. So they're a team of 4. They work from 9 p.m. until 4 a.m. In the Byward Market, which is our main nightlife hub here in Ottawa. And they do this on Fridays and Saturday nights over the summer, and we hope to be able to expand that next year too.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mathieu. Okay, first question for the group, and I know please keep questions coming in on the chat as well. 2025 presented another set of challenges for many operators within the nighttime economy. But you all demonstrated that governments can achieve tangible results to support nightlife. If you could wave a magic wand, what's the one thing that would make it easier for you to support nighttime economies in 2026? Anybody want to take a first pass at the magic wand?
I'll do it. Staffing and budget. I think maybe this will echo for my colleagues' concern too. I think these positions, they're brand new, so we need to advocate internally and really demonstrate the value of our work, and that's also a challenge. And I think it's gonna get fixed over time. But right now, for instance, this position has the position I hold is very public facing, like I walk on the street, people recognize me because I've been on the media all the time, but it's a one-man office right now and got a bit of a budget this year. So, I'm thankful for that, but I think, having the right resources to be able to operate is the biggest challenge internally.
I'll jump in on that because I agree, and I feel like I have a tool for the project that the students were able to do for me identified 20 needs in the nighttime economy. And I think when somebody reads this report and sees all that we're doing right now with 2 people office and sees all that is recommended that we need to do, it's just there's no end of work. And I think what we struggle with, and maybe that's my magic wand, give me the priority wand. It's hard to figure out sometime what the priority is because there's so much that needs to be done.
My magic wand would just immediately make everyone understand what nighttime economy means, and you know, and understand that our office can be helpful in planning conversations, in permitting reform conversations, in all of these things, because I feel like we are forced to be reactive so much of the time when it would have been so much easier for everyone if we were involved in the conversation earlier. Um, and just a part of all of these other departments that make things happen every day.
I'll add to that that I think that greater access to mental health would definitely be helpful moving into 2026 and thereafter. I think so much of what we deal with on a regular basis has some connection to mental health, whether it's someone who's out having too much to drink, or the homeless population, that sort of thing, or drug use. Any of those, they all come back to issues with mental health access. So that would be mine.
And I'll wrap us up by just saying, echoing everyone about knowledge and balance. There is an importance for understanding the vitality of nightlife and that it is something our city wants. There are challenges, but there are folks in place to help address, and we don't want it to go away or to be, moved to another city is known for that in our state. We want to be known for that. So balance and understanding.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. I want to pick up maybe thematically on something that Benton said in bringing up mental health. Is there a policy area? We've talked about a lot of different policy areas in this 45 minutes. Is there a policy area we haven't talked about where you would like to see more work that intersects with the nighttime economy space? Is there something that we haven't yet addressed?
I just want to shout out something that I'm envious of. Sacramento has a great partnership with their nighttime economy and their planning department. And we do as well. We don't work in a silo necessarily, but because of the different priorities of what we're dealing with, nightlife is not top of our list for our planning folks. And I think that's something that I'd love to see us working policy wise for quality of life and all the other things that I've mentioned. Shout out Sacramento.
I think there's a lot of work being done, but also a lot of work that could be done around transportation and nighttime economy. And, thinking about hospitality workers getting to and from work when a lot of our cities, the buses stop running at, 12 p.m., but our venues are open until 2, 3, 4 a.m. And also things like musician parking and loading. How do we handle deliveries to our venues when there's construction? Stuff like that. It's kind of just, it's one of those afterthought things a lot of the time, it seems like.
I don't know what city it is. I believe it's in Europe, but there where the position is actually in city council. I really I think it's an interesting idea of having, I think it's Carly in Bristol, England, or that everything they do through city council goes through the lens of nighttime economy as well, because there pretty much is a value and a need to address pretty much everything through the night lens if you really think about it. So I find that would be an interesting um, perspective to explore more.
I think it's I'm going to give a shout out to Carly too in Bristol. They came up with they have like a safe space at night for women and gender minorities. It's like a hot point in downtown where you can just drop in if you have an issue, and you'll be taken care of. And I think I think it intersects a little bit about what you brought up at the beginning, Ben, in terms of mental health and night what I call night care, or caring of people that go at night. And I think this is like definitely a growing trend, because we've talked about safety a lot in the last few years, and we've been shifting the narrative towards harm reduction, and now we're talking about caring for people, and this will include segments of the populations that were not considered before as being part of nightlife, such as the unhoused population, for instance.
Now, I'll just add to all of those is that I think continuing to build on the relationships that we have with other departments and other organizations. I have some new initiatives that are coming up next year that I've had people reaching out to me already to talk about them, and I think creating that partnership between public and private partners on addressing a lot of the issues that we have in the community, I think will be a big part of that.
That's excellent. In terms of the idea of partnerships, there's been a growing interest in nighttime economy initiatives from music venues, urban planners, cultural policy leaders, and others. Are there any existing or emerging coalitions that you find exciting, either within your own cities or beyond, that you would like to maybe participate in or collaborate with or emulate?
I think we should leverage much more the academic world in terms of the night studies. There are, these researchers are there to provide us with a lot of data that can help us make evidence-based decision. And also, I think what's interesting me personally right now, because I'm new to this position and I came from advocacy, and I think all of us here, no one went to school for this. So, and how can we start professionalizing these positions by integrating schools, having an executive certificate or schools of public governance and management, and really bringing this at another level, so that it's part of the conversation when you go to school in for public governance, for instance, or and I think this is the next step we need to do to give even more credibility to what we are all doing.
Any other thoughts on coalitions or alliances?
I'm not sure if they're still on, but I saw the responsible hospitality folks on earlier, and I think, NITECAP does a lot of work with them and in terms of planning the Sociable City Summit and putting together some of the programming. And I think that that's, exactly the kind of thing that we should be doing, because the people who come to the Sociable City Summit, those are, the code enforcement people, those are the planners, those are people from all other kinds of government. And so just giving us an opportunity to spend time, in dialogue with them, and also kind of explaining what it is that we do in our cities and being able to learn from other people what they're doing in their communities, stuff like that. So I think that those are the kinds of rooms that we should be in.
Yeah, and in some ways, RHI is sort of an association of associations that should be involved in this, creating sociable cities. And I think if we can emulate those associations of associations at the local level, that we can also have that same sort of impact and change.
Okay. Please feel free to throw out questions in the chat. I have another one here. This work is not always easy, and many decision makers still don't fully understand nighttime economy. What continues to inspire you to do this work moving forward?
If I could still work in nightlife, I would. I don't have this. I just love the energy of night. I love the heart that people bring to their businesses and the workers that create a space for people to connect and enjoy life. And there's nobody that's been building the foundation for that to continue. And so I guess that's what inspires me. But if I think about it, if I took a minute to think about it that way, it's like entirely daunting to think about. But I just I want it to go on, and I want it to not get back to what it was, but to at least have a new level of vitality that it hasn't regained since COVID. I find it incredibly sad that some people don't feel comfortable connecting, and it goes back to that whole mental health thing. Where I'm incredibly motivated by the Surgeon General's report on the epidemic of isolation and loneliness. And I think those are key to selling our story, that it makes a healthy city to invest in ways that people that live or visit in those cities can thrive as human beings. So that's what inspires me.
Yeah, absolutely. To piggyback off of that, Raleigh is an emerging city. It is growing in the young professional. The Research Triangle is a pretty nice hub for tech and people coming post college. And what do those people look for, young professionals, when they move, is activities. So although that we're not the biggest, tourist destination, we need something for our locals to help this momentum and growth. So I think that is important. The social aspect of human connection and being able to continue moving a city forward into the future is what's really important.
I think the collaboration between so many different entities, that's what really motivates me. Like if people really knew what really went on behind the scenes to make these cities successful and to make them safe, I think they would be really in awe of that and impressed by the amount of work that that we all do for our cities. And so we meet on a weekly basis to meet with first responders and the mayor's office and that sort of thing. And being able to share that information and go out the next week and make improvements and tweaks where we need to, and just making it a safer environment for people to come and enjoy our city and what makes the city special to us.
I used to work in nightlife basically, and I was, when the city showed up at my venue, I knew it was going to be something bad. It's like, oh, what did we do wrong this time? We're going to be in trouble. Who forgot to renew the permit? Whatever. And now, seeing the other side of that, but still having that background knowledge and that understanding of operation and what all of our venue operators are going through. Um, I think it's really important that we have people like everyone in this room who are kind of translators between these nightlife operators and the rest of the city. Because before a lot of our offices and our positions existed, there was no advocate in city government that explained why wanting to operate a bar that has a pool table doesn't mean that we're trying to do something bad. It just means that we're trying to open a business that is also a community platform. Like Allison was saying, a place where people can get together and um, remember that, it's not all doom and gloom like the phones that we look at every single day of our lives. So I think that I'm inspired just by how hard, things can be for operators that I know firsthand. And I'm also inspired by, NITECAP and everybody in this organization. And I think even though our team is pretty small in New Orleans, just having y'all there and knowing that you guys are also out there fighting this good fight, that's inspiring to me. And there's also so much kind of there's so much to discover. It's this new frontier kind of, and that's exciting too. It's kind of a blank canvas in some ways. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what you said, Julie. I'm a purpose-driven person, and this position has given me so much purpose. I am advocating for my peers every day. And yes, this is sometimes difficult, but I don't think this is a dream job for me. And every day I wake up and I work for my friends and I work for my peers and I advocate for them internally and I explain. I try to translate, as you said, what their reality is and what our reality is inside government, and explain to the daytime people what the nighttime people are. And this is just, it's a dream job. It's a fantastic position. And I think also what drives me, as you said, is that everyone here in this room today is a pioneer. We are all doing something that is brand new. And when we'll be looking at this in 20 years, it will have taken a whole different shape. And just in 15 years, what we've accomplished is amazing. So I want to be part of that story. I want to be part of this journey that we're doing together.
Excellent. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that one? Because I know we're closing in on the half hour, and there are a couple of questions that came up in the chat. Any final thoughts on why doing the work? Benton, there was a question around night inspectors. Could you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. When I had been in this position for about a year, I had a council member come and ask me about creating night inspector positions, and that's something she had been doing she had tried to accomplish for several years. And so I met with her and with representatives from the codes department. And so what came from that is that we have two individuals that are basically trained by codes, and they're cross-trained to also serve in the beer board, which is the other department that I oversee. And so we can use them in various different ways. And so primarily it was to bring someone on to help with noise violations and things of that nature. And then those were kind of hit or miss. So we were like, well, then we can train you to go out and do beer inspections as well while you're working on that. But what that actually did was it created an opportunity for them to really create this relationship with the bars and the other venues, so that when we go out and we get a noise violation at one of the bars, then to kind of to Julia's point, they're not freaking out that we're showing up at their door. And so one of the things that that I try to tell the night inspectors is that we need to be supportive and be proactive and really working with the venues so that when we show up, they don't think that we're there to punish them, that we're there to really help them come into compliance. So that's really the purpose of those positions, is to help bring these different entities into compliance. But now it's kind of spreading to other departments to kind of take the same approach as well.
That's great. And then Allison, there was a question about NAICS codes that I think may have been in reference to the research work that you had been doing.
Yeah, I think the question was something about, is there a proposed change to NAICS code? The report that we got I just got it 2 days ago, but I know that, like I said, there's recommendations within the report, and there really is a need for somehow to define these businesses in a category that's different. For instance, your sporting locations, the stadiums and everything, the income that's their primary purpose, is to do sporting events, but probably more money comes in from the number of concerts and different types of performances that go through there. So in some ways, the economic impact is skewed by particularly venues that are a hybrid, that have more than one purpose. And these days, to run a nightlife business, you almost have to do multiple operations within it. So you might be, a community space in the daytime, or a coffee space in the daytime, and then you're, a restaurant that becomes more of a dance club, or a place for a DJ to play. So yeah, I think there's a great need for reform. It's just and what's great is that this study gave us sort of 20 mini projects that either we can take up ourselves, or NITECAP could take up, or that we could get, more student interns or study groups to work on this work. So, like I said, there's no end of work to be done.
That's great. And on that note, that is a perfect note to close on. I want to thank all of our panelists, everybody for speaking today. Really appreciate all of the insights. And thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.